What does a person do when they have nothing left to lose? When the world has pushed them to the very edge, and the only thing left is a single, defiant choice? For Lana, that moment came in the freezing rain, with her own blood on her lips and a monster at her back. She was running for her life, but she was about to stumble into a secret war she never knew existed. She used her very last bit of strength to save a life, not knowing it would bind her to a king and ignite a destiny she never could have imagined. This is a story of karma, of brutal choices, and of the incredible power found in the moment of ultimate surrender. The rain wasn't just rain. It was a cold, silver-edged assault. It felt like tiny needles driving into Lana's skin, a constant, stinging reminder of her own failure. She ran, one hand clutching the torn sleeve of her thin, North Face jacket, the other pressed tight against her ribs. It hurt to breathe. It hurt to exist. Behind her, miles back now but still echoing in her head, was the slam of a heavy oak door, the sound of a voice, thick with rage and whiskey, screaming her name. Marcus. Marcus, who had been her charming savior when she'd first moved to the small, isolated town of Stone Creek. Marcus, the handsome, respected leader of the Community Watch, who had promised to protect her. And he had, in his own twisted way. He had protected her from everyone but himself. The Community Watch was a joke. Lana had seen the receipts. She'd found the ledger hidden in the hollowed-out base of his gun safe. It wasn't just flashlights and binoculars. It was silver, boxes of it, custom-made ammunition, strange, serrated blades, and traps that looked medieval. He wasn't watching for burglars. He was hunting. Hunting what, she hadn't known, until she saw the maps of the Black Pine Reserve, the massive, federally protected wilderness that bordered their town, the wilderness the locals whispered about, the wilderness the town's charter forbade anyone from entering. Tonight, he had found her looking. The charm had vanished, replaced by the monster she always suspected was lurking beneath the surface. The back of his hand had caught her across the mouth, splitting her lip. The taste of her own blood, coppery and hot, had been the final straw. While he'd gone to the kitchen for another drink, she had bolted. She hadn't grabbed a coat, just the light rain jacket. She hadn't grabbed her phone or her wallet. She had just run. Now, her lungs were on fire. The freezing November storm had turned the forest path into a slick river of mud. She stumbled, her worn sneaker catching on a root, and pitched forward. She landed hard, the impact jarring a cry from her throat. Pain, sharp and electric, shot up from her ankle. She tried to stand, but her ankle buckled, sending her back to her knees. Panic, cold and sharp, cut through the pain. "No, no, no," she sobbed, the words choked and breathless. She was at the edge of the Black Pine Reserve, the place Marcus was so obsessed with, the place no one was supposed to go. A jagged, rusted, barbed wire fence marked the boundary, along with a faded yellow sign. Government property. No trespassing. Extreme danger. She had a choice. Stay here, where Marcus and his watch would eventually find her, or cross the line. She looked back at the flickering lights of Stone Creek, barely visible through the torrential rain. There was no safety there. Only a different kind of monster. With a gasping sob, she crawled, dragging her injured leg. She found a gap where the fence had rusted through, wincing as a barb caught her jacket. She squeezed through the mud and wet leaves, collapsing on the other side. She was in the forbidden woods, and she was bleeding. She tried to drag herself further, using a thick branch as a crude crutch. Every step was agony. The forest was eerily known as the Whispering Woods, a dark, dense, and dangerous forest that no one dares to enter. Lana, a young woman from the nearby village, is desperate. She is fleeing a cruel, arranged marriage to a man known for his brutality. She would rather take her chances with the rumored beasts of the woods than be his wife. The woods were different. The moment she crossed the boundary, the air changed. It was heavier, quieter, save for the roar of the storm. The trees were ancient, their branches forming a dense canopy that blocked out even the sliver of moonlight. Lana felt a primal fear, a feeling of being watched. She pushed on for what felt like hours, fueled only by adrenaline and terror. Her ankle was a throbbing beacon of pain. Her split lip had long since stopped bleeding, but the cold was seeping into her bones. She knew, with a terrifying certainty, that if she stopped moving, she would die of exposure. Then, she heard it. It wasn't the wind, and it wasn't the rain. It was a sound that didn't belong, a high-pitched, desperate whimper. Lana froze. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The legends of the woods. Wolves, beasts, things that hunted men. Was this a trap? The whimper came again, weaker this time, followed by a frantic, metallic clink. Curiosity, or perhaps a deep-seated compassion she couldn't extinguish, pulled her forward. She pushed through a curtain of wet pine boughs and stopped dead. Her breath hitched. There, in a small clearing, was a wolf. But it wasn't a monster. It was a cub, its fur a matted, soaking silver grey. It looked no bigger than a large house cat, and its front paw was caught. It was a trap, a steel-jaw bear trap, illegal and brutal, its teeth sunk deep into the cub's tiny leg. But what made Lana's blood run cold was the trap itself. She recognized it. The specific make, the dark, oiled steel. It was identical to the one stacked in Marcus's garage, but this one was different. Around the edges, gleaming even in the dim light, was a thin inlay of bright, untarnished silver. The cub whined again, its small body trembling violently. It wasn't just from pain, it was from the cold and the silver. The flesh around the trap was smoking, a faint, acrid smell, mixing with the scent of pine and rain. "Oh, gods," Lana whispered. She knew she should run. This was proof. This was what Marcus was hunting. But she looked at the cub, its dark eyes wide with terror, and she saw herself, trapped, bleeding, alone. "It's okay," she whispered, her voice shaking. She held her hands up. "I'm not going to hurt you." She limped closer. The cub tried to snarl, but it was a pathetic sound. Lana dropped to her knees in the mud, ignoring the screaming pain in her ankle. The trap was simple if you knew how. She'd watched Marcus set them. You needed leverage. She put her hands on the steel bars. The moment her skin touched the metal, a jolt went through her. But it was the silver inlay that burned. It wasn't just cold, it felt wrong, vile. She grit her teeth, tears of pain and exertion streaming down her face. "I have you," she grunted. She put her entire dwindling weight into it, pulling the steel jaws apart. There was a sickening click. The jaws widened by 1/2 an inch. The cub, understanding, ripped its paw free with a yelp. Lana collapsed backward, her hand screaming in protest. The cub scrambled back, leaving a trail of dark blood on the leaves, and huddled behind a log, whimpering. Lana's vision was starting to tunnel. The blood loss from her lip, the exhaustion, the searing cold, and now the burns on her palms. It was too much. "Go," she whispered at the cub. "Go, run." She tried to push herself up, but her arms gave out. She fell onto her side in the mud, the world spinning. And that's when she felt it. The watching feeling, magnified 1,000 times. A low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate the very ground beneath her. It wasn't a cub this time. She turned her head, her movement slow, syrupy. 2 points of gold, brighter than any animal eyes, were glowing in the darkness just beyond the clearing. A shadow detached itself from the trees. It was massive, a beast of legend, a wolf that stood as tall as a man at the shoulder. Its fur was the color of a midnight storm, and its fangs were bared. But it wasn't the wolf that held her gaze. The shadow shifted. Like a distortion in the air, a ripple of impossible physics. Bones cracked and reformed, fur and muscle and sinew twisted. In the space of 3 heartbeats, the wolf was gone. In its place stood a man. He was as tall as the wolf had been, built with a terrifying, primal power. He was naked from the waist up, his skin seemingly impervious to the freezing rain. Long black hair was slicked back from a face that was all hard angles and brutal authority. But it was his eyes that held her. They were the same eyes, molten gold and filled with an ancient, terrifying rage. He took a step toward her. He didn't look at her. He looked at the trap, at the smoking, silver inlay. Then his golden gaze snapped to her, to the blood on her lips, the burns on her hands, and the muddy, exhausted heap she had become. He was the most beautiful and terrifying thing she had ever seen. He stalked forward, knelt beside her, and his large, warm hand tilted her chin up. His eyes bored into hers, seeing everything. "Who?" he growled, his voice a low thunder. "Did this to you?" Lana opened her mouth, but the world was fading to black. Her last conscious thought was not of fear, but of a strange, impossible warmth. She had been found. Lana woke up to the smell of herbs and the feeling of warmth, impossible warmth. She was lying on something soft, not a bed of leaves, but a mattress. Her eyes snapped open. She wasn't in the woods. She was in a room, large and rustic, built of massive, dark wooden beams. A fire roared in a stone fireplace, casting a warm, flickering glow. She was in a bed, covered in thick, heavy fur pelts. She sat up, and a wave of dizziness hit her. Her head was bandaged. She looked down at her hands. They were wrapped in clean white linen, a soothing, cool balm sacking into the skin. Her ankle was propped on a pillow, also tightly bound. She was wearing a simple, oversized cotton tunic. It wasn't hers. "Be still." The voice was female, firm but not unkind. A woman emerged from the shadows in the corner. She was older, with streaks of silver in her braided brown hair. Her eyes were a sharp, intelligent green. She carried a wooden bowl, emitting a fragrant steam. Where am I?" Lana's voice was a dry croak. "You are in the pack house, at Stoneheart." The woman, who Lana would come to know as Lyra, the pack healer, offered her the bowl. "Drink. It's a broth. You've been unconscious for 2 days." 2 days. Lana's mind reeled. "The cub. The little wolf. Is it?" "Finn is safe," Lyra said, a small, rare smile touching her lips. "Thanks to you. He is the Alpha's nephew, his sister's only son." The door to the room opened with a heavy creak, silencing their conversation. The man from the woods stepped inside. He was dressed now, in simple black pants and a dark linen shirt, but it did nothing to diminish his power. He seemed to fill the room, to suck all the air out of it. He was Kalen, the Alpha King of the United Packs of the Black Pine Reserve. His golden eyes locked onto her. He exuded an aura of absolute command. This was not a man. This was a force of nature. "You're awake," he stated. It wasn't a question. Lyra bowed her head. "She's weak, Alpha, but the fever has broken. Leave us," he commanded. Lyra set the bowl down and left without a word, closing the door softly behind her. Silence descended. Lana's heart felt like a trapped bird. Kalen walked to the foot of her bed, his arms crossed over his massive chest. He studied her, his face an unreadable mask of stone. "You are human," he said, the words laced with a deep ancestral distrust. "Humans are forbidden in our lands. They have been, since the silver accords were broken by your kind. You know the penalty for trespassing?" Lana swallowed, shaking her head. "Death," he said, the word hanging in the air. "So tell me, human girl, why I shouldn't have my guards return you to the mud you crawled from." Fear, and something else, anger, rose in Lana. She had not survived Marcus, the storm, and a silver-laced trap to be executed by a man in a linen shirt. "I didn't crawl here," she whispered, her voice gaining strength. "I was running from a monster." "A monster?" Kalen repeated, a humorless smirk touching his lips. "You run from one monster and find yourself in the lair of 1,000 more. Your kind, they see us as beasts." "My kind set that trap," Lana shot back, pointing with her bandaged hand. "My kind lined it with silver. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was wrong. It was burning that cub alive. I couldn't just leave it." Kalen's expression flickered. "You were bleeding before you touched the trap. The blood on your face was your own." "Who did that?" My ex-boyfriend, Marcus." Just saying his name felt like swallowing glass. "And this Marcus, he is the one who sets traps of silver?" Lana nodded. "He's the leader of our community watch. I think he's hunting you." Kalen was silent for a long time. He paced the room, a caged lion. "Your ex-boyfriend is a poacher, a fool. He has no idea what he's hunting. But the trap you found, that was no mere poacher's tool." He stopped and turned to her. "That trap was not set by your Marcus." Lana blinked. "What?" "But I recognized it. The model is human, yes," Kalen interrupted, his voice low and dangerous. "But the silver, the way it was set, it was not meant for a random cub. It was set on a patrol path, baited with wolfsbane. It was meant for an alpha. It was meant for me." He leaned in, his golden eyes burning into hers. "You stumbled into a war, little human, and by saving Finn, you have placed yourself directly in the middle of it. The trap was set by a shifter, a rogue, one of my own kind, working with humans to see me dead." The revelation hung in the air. Marcus wasn't just a poacher, he was an arms dealer. He was supplying the enemy. "And now," Kalen continued, his voice softening just a fraction, "I have a problem. You are a human who has seen us. You know our secret. You have a scent. My nephew's life debt. It clings to you. My pack can smell it. They are conflicted." What happens to me now?" Lana asked, her voice small. "That," Kalen said, walking to the door, "is the question. You are Lyra's patient. You will recover. But make no mistake, Lana." He said her name for the first time, and it felt like a brand. "You are also my prisoner. You will not leave this room." The door closed, and the heavy bolt slid home. The next week was a blur of healing and confinement. Lana's room was comfortable, the food was good, and Lyra was a kind, if tight-lipped, attendant. But it was a cage, a beautiful, rustic cage. She learned to walk again on her mended ankle. The burns on her hands faded to pink, puckered scars. But her mind was racing. Kalen's words haunted her. A rogue, working with humans. She had no doubt Marcus was the human. It explained the ledgers, the coded calls, the secret shipments. He wasn't just a brute. He was a traitor to his own kind, arming the enemies of another. On the 5th day, she had a visitor. A small scratching sound came from the door. Not a knock. A scratch. Lana froze. The bolt slid back, but the door only opened a crack. A small, silver-grey head poked through. "Finn," Lana breathed. The cub, his leg bandaged just like hers, limped into the room. He trotted straight to her, his tail giving a short, happy wag. He nudged her good hand, and Lana sank to the floor, gathering the little wolf into her arms. He licked the healing scars on her palms. "You're okay," she whispered, burying her face in his soft fur. He smelled of pine and oats. A bond had been forged in that clearing, one of shared trauma and survival. He has refused to be separated from his littermates, until today. Lana looked up. Kalen was leaning against the doorframe, his arms crossed. His face was unreadable, but his golden eyes were fixed on the sight of her and his nephew. "He's been asking for you," Kalen said, his voice quiet. In his own way. Lana didn't know what to say. "He's healing well. Lyra is the best." Kalen pushed off the wall and walked into the room, sitting on the edge of a heavy oak chair. He didn't seem like a king in that moment, just a man, an uncle. "He is my sister's son. She was killed by a rogue's trap 2 years ago. Finn is all I have left of her." The confession was so sudden, so raw, it stunned Lana. The weight of her action, saving Finn, suddenly felt 100 times heavier. "Kalen," she started, "about the trap, about Marcus." "I have my scouts watching the town," he said, his expression hardening again. "They watch this Marcus. He's just as you described, arrogant, cruel. He runs his little watch like a warlord." "He has ledgers," Lana said, her voice urgent. "A book. It's hidden in his gun safe, in a false bottom. It has names, dates, amounts. He's not just a poacher. He's a supplier." Kalen's eyes narrowed. This was new information. "A ledger, you're certain?" "I saw it. That's why I ran. He caught me with it." Kalen stared at her, a long, assessing look. "You're a very good liar," he said, his voice flat. Lana's blood ran cold. "What?" "No, I'm telling you the truth." "Are you?" Kalen stood, the predator returning. "You paint a very convincing picture. The battered woman, fleeing for her life, stumbling purely by chance upon my nephew, saving him from a trap, and happening to have exactly the intelligence I need to root out a traitor." "It's too perfect, Lana." He began to pace. "Or perhaps it's a different story. Perhaps you've been Marcus's partner all along. The woman's touch. But you got greedy. Or maybe he betrayed you. So you run, but not in fear. You run to me. You save the cub, a gesture of goodwill, an offering. You feed me your old partner, Marcus, on a silver platter, in exchange for, what? Sanctuary? Revenge?" Every word was a slap. "No, that's not true, isn't it?" He loomed over her. Finn growled, a tiny rumble in his chest, and Kalen's eyes flickered to the cub in surprise. "How do I know," Kalen snarled, "that you aren't the real traitor? The lure, the one sent to gain my trust, to get inside my home?" Lana was on her feet, her ankle screaming, her whole body shaking with rage. "You think I'm a spy? After what You think this," she gestured to her face, her hands, "is a lie? It's a very compelling performance." "It's not a performance," she screamed. "You want to know what a lie smells like? Go smell Marcus. He smells of cheap whiskey and self-loathing. He smells of old blood and this oily smell like a garage." "And what?" Kalen whispered, his face inches from hers. "Do I smell like?" Lana stopped her. The question was a trap, but she was too angry to care. She inhaled, really smelled him for the first time. He didn't smell like a person. He smelled real. Like the forest after a storm. Like wet earth and ozone and pine and something else. Something warm and musky and Safe. You smell like the woods, she whispered, her anger vanishing, replaced by a strange, dizzying recognition. You smell like home. The word hung between them. Kalen recoiled as if she had struck him. His golden eyes widened, not with anger, but with a dawning, horrified shock. He looked at her, really looked at her, his gaze dropping to her throat, her chest, as if seeing her for the first time. He stumbled back, one hand coming up to his own chest. No, he breathed. It's not possible. What? Lana pleaded, frightened by his reaction. What's wrong? Your scent, he choked out. I couldn't smell it before. The blood, the medicine, Lyra's herbs, they covered it. He stared at her, and the raw power in his gaze was terrifying. It wasn't anger, it was hunger, it was desperation, it was possession. What is wrong? She cried. Kalen turned, his fist striking the wooden wall with a crack that shook the room. She's a human, he roared, not at Lana, but at the ceiling, at the sky, at the fates. He turned back to her, his eyes wild. The gold was swirling, brighter, his pupils dilating. What is wrong, he growled, is that the fates have a sick sense of humor. What is wrong, Lana, is that you, a human, a liar, a potential spy, are my mate. The word hung in the air, heavy and impossible. Mate. Lana's mind, which had been fed a steady diet of fairy tales and romance novels, had one idea of what that meant. Her reality, which had been shaped by Marcus, had another. I am not your anything, she spat, her fear manifesting as venom. I am not your property. I am not a mate. I am a person. Kalen's expression, which had been one of shock and self-loathing, hardened. Do you think I chose this? He snarled. To be bound to a fragile, weak human? The insult hit its mark. Fragile. Weak? Lana advanced on him, her limp forgotten. I survived, Marcus. I survived the storm. I survived your silver traps. That's more than you can say. You overgrown dog. She hadn't realized she'd backed him against the wall until she was chest to chest with him, her finger jabbing his solid pectoral muscle. I don't care about your pack politics, or your fates, or your mate bond. I am not your prisoner, and I am not your mate. I am your only chance. Kalen was utterly still. No one had ever spoken to him this way. No one had ever dared. He could snap her neck before she drew her next breath. But he wasn't angry. He was stunned. And the bond, the cursed, traitorous bond, was singing in his veins, delighted by her fire. My chance? He whispered. To get Marcus, she said, her voice dropping, urgent. He's the key. You said it yourself. He's working with a rogue. But Marcus is vain, he's arrogant, and he's sloppy. He trusts no one, except for one person. You, Kalen breathed, the pieces clicking into place. No, Lana said, a bitter smile twisting her lips. Not me. He hated me. He trusted his beta, a man named Ronan. Kalen's blood turned to ice. Ronan. No, Lana said, confused by his reaction. Not your Ronan? Marcus's second-in-command. A short, stocky man with a scar on his chin. Always wears a brown leather jacket. Kalen's world tilted. My Ronan, he said, his voice a deadly calm, is tall, with black hair and no scars. He is my beta. He is the one who has been questioning your story. A new, terrifying suspicion dawned. Lana had never seen Kalen's beta. She had been confined. Kalen, she said, the trap. You said it was set by a rogue. Someone who knew your patrol paths. My beta, Kalen said, his voice flat. Ronan. He sets the patrol paths. They stared at each other, the same horrifying conclusion dawning. But if your Ronan is the traitor, Lana stammered. Then who? Who is the Ronan Marcus trusts? It's a lie, Kalen said, his mind racing. A code, a name. But Marcus is working with my Ronan. Your ex has been feeding my beta information about the town. Patrols, police schedules. And in return, Ronan has been feeding him. Feeding him what? Silver, Kalen said. Our ancestral silver, stolen from our vaults. And rogues. Discontented wolves who hate my rule, who want to reclaim the human towns. The plot was bigger and uglier than either of them had imagined. It wasn't just a rogue. It was Kalen's most trusted advisor, his brother in arms. Ronan. He wanted you dead, Lana whispered. The trap was for you, and if you died, Ronan would be Alpha Regent. And Marcus would be his human liaison, Kalen finished, controlling the town, supplying the silver. A human king and a wolf king, ruling their own little empires. Kalen's face was a mask of thunderous betrayal. The rage was so potent, Lana could feel it, a physical heat in the room. He was going to kill them. He was going to go now and tear them both apart. Kalen, wait! She grabbed his arm. His skin was burning hot. He turned, his eyes pure, molten gold, the beast just below the surface. Get your hand off me, human. No, she shouted, holding on. You can't. You can't just go down there and start a war. That's what they want. You're angry. You're not thinking. He betrayed me, Kalen roared, ripping his arm from her grasp. And he underestimated me, Lana roared back. You go down there, all rage and claws, and Ronan will play the victim. He'll say you've gone mad. He'll say you're attacking your own beta. He'll have the pack on his side. The logic, crisp and cold, cut through his rage. She was right. He was the king. He couldn't just be a beast. You need proof, Lana said, her voice softening. You need to catch them. Both of them. Together. Kalen took a deep, shuddering breath, the man warring with the wolf. The ledger, he said. Marcus's ledger. It's the only way, Lana said. It will have Ronan's name. It will have the silver shipments. It will be his undoing. But it's in his safe, in the town. We are forbidden. You are, Lana said. But I'm not. Not really. I'm just a girl from Stone Creek. A girl who escaped her wolf captors and is running back to the only man who can protect her. Kalen stared at her. You would go back to him? I'd be your spy, Lana said, her voice shaking, but her eyes firm. Your lure. The performance you thought I was giving. We'll give it to them for real. I'll go back. I'll get the ledger, and I'll get him to meet with Ronan. To sell me, or trade me, or whatever twisted deal they can make. And when they meet, we will be there. Kalen finished. He looked at her, truly looked at her. This fragile, weak human. She was offering to walk back into the den of the man who had nearly killed her. For him. For his pack. Why? He asked, the one-word question holding a universe of meaning. Because, Lana said, her hand finding Finn's soft fur. You're not the only one who lost family to them. They've built a kingdom on the suffering of people like me. And I'm tired of being their victim. It's time for some karma. Kalen reached out, his hand hesitating. He didn't touch her. He touched the healing scar on her hand, the one from the silver. You are, he said, his voice thick with an emotion she couldn't name, the least fragile creature I have ever met. The plan was terrifyingly simple. It relied on two things, Marcus's arrogance and Ronan's greed. Kalen's scouts, now with a new, frantic purpose, confirmed Ronan was indeed skimming silver from the armory. They also confirmed he was due to meet a human contact in 2 nights at a neutral, abandoned sawmill halfway between the town and the reserve. "That's our window," Kalen had said, his face carved from stone as he addressed his two most loyal guards, the only two he now trusted. Lana's part was more dangerous. She had to be found. The next morning, she was discovered by a human police patrol on the edge of the highway, miles from the Black Pine Reserve. She was wearing her original torn clothes, which Lyra had painstakingly muddied. She had no ID, no phone, and a wild, fabricated story. She'd been kidnapped. They were animals, she'd sobbed to the skeptical town sheriff, a man firmly in Marcus's pocket. Huge, like a cult. They live in the woods. They took me. I just escaped. The story was designed to do one thing: get back to Marcus. It worked. Within an hour, Marcus himself was at the station. He stormed in, all righteous fury and concerned boyfriend. "Lana, my God!" He wrapped her in his arms, his expensive Ralph Lauren cologne filling her lungs, making her want to vomit. She forced herself to tremble, to cling to him. "Marcus," she'd cried, "it was horrible. Take me home." The ride to his house, their house, was the longest of her life. He held her hand, his thumb rubbing circles on her skin, and she had to fight the urge to flinch. "Tell me everything, baby," he'd said, his voice a low, possessive purr. "What did you see?" And Lana had spun her tale. She told him about the cultists in the woods. She described a disorganized, savage group. "They're just animals, Marcus. They're afraid of the town. They're afraid of you." She made them sound weak, vulnerable. "And their leader," she'd added, playing her trump card. He tried to. He wanted me." Marcus's hand tightened on hers. Rage. She knew his triggers. "He what?" "He's obsessed," Lana whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. "He let me escape. I know he did. He wants me to lead him to you. He wants to trade me." Marcus had gone silent, his jaw working. Lana could see the gears turning. He wasn't thinking of her safety. He was thinking of the opportunity. A cult leader from the woods, one who was obsessed with him. This was a threat, but it was also a prize. "It's okay, baby," he'd said, his voice dark. "You're safe now. I'm going to handle this. I'm going to handle him." That night, Lana was a prisoner again, but this time it was by choice. She pretended to sleep, her heart hammering, as she listened to Marcus on the phone in his office. "Our timeline's moving up," Marcus snapped into the receiver. "The asset is compromised. No, it's better. She's the lure now. The Alpha is arrogant. He wants her. He'll come for her. And when he does, we'll be ready. The sawmill, tomorrow night. Bring all the silver you have. We're not just taking the leader. We're wiping them out." He hung up. Lana squeezed her eyes shut, feigning sleep as he came into the bedroom. He stood over her for a long moment, watching her. Then he left, locking the bedroom door from the outside. She waited. 1 hour. 2. At 3:00 a.m., when the house was finally silent. She went to work. The lock on her door was a joke. Marcus's arrogance again. She'd picked it in seconds with a hairpin. She crept down to his office. The gun safe. It was new, top of the line, with a digital keypad. She had 6 numbers. His birthday? No, their anniversary. He'd forgotten it. Then she smiled. It was the same code he used for his Chevy truck's garage door. 80813. Booby. He was a pathetic, predictable cliché. The safe clicked open. She found the false bottom. And there it was. The ledger. She didn't take it. That would be too obvious. She pulled out her own asset, a tiny, high-definition digital camera Lyra had given her. "From a hiker's GoPro we found," Lyra had explained. Blushing, Lana photographed every single page. Dates, names, amounts, and the damning entry, R Beta, 50 units, payment, patrol routes. She put the ledger back, replaced the panel, and locked the safe. She was back in bed, the camera hidden, when Marcus's alarm went off at 6 a.m. She had the proof. Now she just had to survive the night. The sawmill was a skeleton of rotting wood and rusted metal, silhouetted against a sliver of moon. It smelled of mildew and decay. Marcus had 3 of his watch members with him, all armed with rifles that Lana now knew were loaded with silver-tipped rounds. And her. She was the bait. "He'll come for you, baby," Marcus whispered, his hand on her waist, pulling her close. His breath was hot on her ear. "And when he shows his face, my men will do the rest." "What about your partner?" Lana asked, her voice trembling. "The one with the silver?" "He's handling the perimeter," Marcus said, his eyes scanning the darkness. "He'll make sure the Alpha's pack doesn't interfere. Tonight, we cut the head off the snake." Headlights appeared. A heavy-duty Dodge truck, not a Chevy, pulled up. A man got out. Tall black hair, no scars. Ronan, Kalen's beta. He strode over, his face a mask of contempt. He didn't even look at Lana. "You have the payment?" he asked Marcus. "In the truck," Marcus said. "You have the product?" Ronan sneered. "He's coming. The Alpha is predictable. He thinks the girl is his mate." He spat the word like a curse. "He's coming alone. He's blinded by her." "A mate?" Marcus laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. This thing? He can have her. After I'm done." And that's when Lana chose her moment. "He's not blinded," she said, her voice clear and strong. Both men turned to her. Marcus's smile faded. "What did you say?" "I said he's not blinded," Lana repeated, stepping away from Marcus. "But you are, by your own pathetic ego." "Lana, shut up," Marcus snapped. "You really think," Lana continued, her voice rising, "that I came back for you? You think you're the hero of this story, Marcus? You're not even a good villain. You're just a pathetic cliché. 800-813. Really? Booby?" Marcus's face went white. Ronan's hand went to the pistol on his hip. "She has the ledger," Marcus hissed at Ronan. "He knows about the ledger," Lana said, looking at Ronan. "He knows about the silver. He knows about you, Ronan. He's known for 2 days." Ronan's blood turned to ice. He looked at Marcus. You idiot! You let her play you!" "She's lying!" Marcus yelled, raising his rifle. "Am I?" Lana smiled. "Then why did Kalen give me this?" She raised her hand, and from her wrist, a small silver whistle, a silent dog whistle, fell into her palm. Except it wasn't silent. The sound she blew was low and mournful, and it carried. "You're dead!" Marcus screamed, leveling the rifle at her. He never fired. A black and grey streak hit him from the side. One of Kalen's loyal guards, in full wolf form, slammed into Marcus, sending the rifle flying. Marcus's men opened fire, but they weren't shooting at wolves. They were shooting at shadows. 2 more wolves, Kalen's honor guard, burst from the sawmill, taking down the other watch members with brutal, non-lethal efficiency. They were a blur of fur and muscle, disarming and disabling. Ronan, the traitor, didn't fight. He ran. He bolted for his truck, yanking the door open, and stopped. Kalen was sitting in the driver's seat. He hadn't come as a wolf. He'd come as the king. "Going somewhere, Ronan?" Kalen asked, his voice a soft, terrifying rumble. He stepped out of the truck, all 6'5" of him. Ronan paled. He drew his pistol, the one loaded with silver. I will kill you, Kalen. I'll tell the pack you've gone mad. That you mated a human." "You're right," Kalen said, walking slowly toward him. "She is human." Ronan fired. Kaelin's hand moved faster than a striking snake. He caught Ronan's wrist. The sound of bones snapping echoed in the clearing. The gun clattered to the ground. "She is human," Kaelin repeated, his voice dangerously calm as he held his former beta in an unbreakable grip. "And she is braver than any wolf I have ever known. She is more loyal than you, and she is everything to me." He hauled Ronan up. "You are stripped of your name. You are stripped of your rank. You are exiled. You will tell the packs what you have done. You will live as a rogue, bearing the mark of the traitor." "That is my judgment." He threw Ronan to the ground. Ronan, clutching his broken hand, scrambled away and disappeared into the darkness. A fate, Lana knew, worse than death. Lana turned. Marcus was on the ground, his leg bleeding where the wolf had taken him down. He was sobbing, a pathetic, broken sound. She walked over to him. He looked up at her, his face a mask of terror and disbelief. "Lana, baby, please, Lana knelt beside him. She looked at the man who had haunted her nightmares, the monster under the bed. He was just a man, a weak, pathetic man. "You're right, Marcus," she said, her voice soft. "It is karma. You underestimated me. You thought I was your property. You were wrong." She stood up. "He's all yours, Kaelin, but he's not for you. He's for my justice." She looked at the human police cars, their sirens now wailing in the distance, responding to an anonymous tip about an illegal arms deal. The underestimated girl had brought down a kingmaker. It took 3 months for the human world to heal, and for the pack world to settle. 3 months of rebuilding, not just trust, but the very foundations of their 2 separate worlds. Lana found herself in the pack house's vast, ancient library, a room that had been untended for a generation. She had made it her own, organizing the old leather-bound journals and histories. She was poring over a faded map of the Black Pine Reserve when Lyra, the healer, entered, not with a poultice, but with a folded copy of the Stone Creek Gazette. "I thought you might want to see this," Lyra said, her eyes crinkling at the corners. Lana unfolded it. The headline in bold black print screamed, "Local corruption ring dismantled. Hero. Tycoon Marcus Reynolds jailed." She scanned the article, her heart beating a steady, calm rhythm. The photos from her digital camera had been received by the State Bureau of Investigation. The anonymous tip had led them to a web of corruption so deep it had required a state-level task force. Marcus, facing a mountain of evidence, including the damning ledger, had confessed in a plea deal. He was gone, for decades. The sheriff, the 2 councilmen, and the rest of the watch were all implicated, their smug faces now staring out from grainy mug shots. The article called the anonymous whistleblower a hero. Lana just felt light. The final chain that had tied her to that life, the lingering fear, the shadow of his name, was gone. Marcus was a problem, and she had solved it. It was, she thought with a small, grim smile, the most satisfying form of karma. "It is done," Lyra said softly. "It is," Lana agreed, folding the paper and setting it aside. She had no desire to keep it. The nightmares of Marcus's face, of his whiskey-laden breath, had finally, truly, begun to fade. Her new life, however, was anything but simple. Her place within the pack was a subject of quiet, intense debate. She was not a prisoner. That much was clear. But she was not Wolf, and she was, undeniable to any shifter who came near her, the mate of the Alpha King. That afternoon, she saw just how complicated her new role was. Kaelin had called a full pack council. The issue, the new human-elected mayor of Stone Creek, had sent a formal request to the caretakers of the Black Pine Reserve, a title Kaelin had established through an anonymous trust to discuss trade relations. "It's a trap," growled Garrick, one of Kaelin's oldest and most traditional advisors. "Humans are not to be trusted. We keep the boundary. Ronan's treachery proved what happens when we mingle with their kind. They offer trade, but they will bring silver and bullets." The council was divided. The younger wolves, who had seen the Chevy trucks and tasted the Dr. Pepper from Lana's own salvaged supplies, were curious. The elders were rigid with fear and tradition. Kaelin, seated at the head of the great oak table, was silent. He let them argue. But his golden gaze eventually settled on Lana, who was seated not at his feet, as tradition for a mate might dictate, but at the table by his side. "Lana," his voice cut through the debate, "you are our bridge. You have seen both sides. What is your counsel?" The room went dead silent, all eyes, sharp and predatory, fixed on her. This was a test. Lana took a breath. "Garrick is right," she said, her voice clear and strong. He looked up, surprised. "Humans can be deceitful. My former life is proof of that. But they are not all, Marcus. Right now, with their leadership in tatters, they are disorganized. They are also desperate. Their lumber mill is failing, and they have no one to run it." She leaned forward. "They aren't asking for access. They're asking for help. We have lumber. We have the ability to transport it. They, in turn, have access to modern medicine, to parts for the generators, to coffee. A human in our lands," Garrick scoffed. "No," Lana said firmly. "A neutral drop point. At the old sawmill, we leave the lumber, they leave the supplies. No contact. Probationary. We build trust slowly. Or," she added, "we prove it can't be done, and we sever ties for good. But to refuse to even talk, that is the weakness of a pack that is afraid. And we are not afraid." Garrick sneered. "She thinks like a human. She thinks like a leader." Kaelin's voice was iron, silencing the room. "Her counsel is sound. We will try it her way." That evening, Lana found Kaelin on the great balcony, the same one where she'd been held captive. Now she came here by choice, for the view. He was staring out at the valley, at the distant, flickering lights of Stone Creek. He was holding a small, exquisitely carved piece of dark wood. "The council meeting was intense," she said, coming to stand beside him. "Thank you for supporting me." "I didn't support you, Lana," he said, turning to her. "I agreed with you. There is a difference." He looked at her, his golden eyes filled with a raw intensity. "You are not just a part of my life. You are reshaping it. You are reshaping my pack." She was still. "Is that what you want, Kaelin?" He let out a breath, a sound almost like a pained growl. "What I want," he said, his voice thick, "is in a constant battle with what I fear." She was stunned. "What do you have to fear? You are the Alpha King. You command 1,000 wolves. You can't be afraid." "I am," he said, his vulnerability a physical blow. "I was never afraid of rogues or hunters or rival packs. But you," he looked at her, and his gaze was heartbreakingly open. "I fear you'll leave. I fear you'll wake up one day and realize this world is too brutal, too savage, and that I am too brutal. I fear you see me as just a captor, a title you are forced to wear. The Alpha's mate." His fear mirrored her own. I'm afraid of that too," she admitted, her voice a whisper. "I'm afraid of losing me, of becoming just an extension of you. I'm not a wolf, Kaelin. I can't. I don't want to just be a title. I know." He stepped closer. "When I first saw you, bleeding in the mud, I saw a weak, fragile human. I was a fool. I was the one who was weak, blinded by my own prejudice. He held out his hand. In his palm was the wooden carving. It was a wolf, a she-wolf, her head tilted to the moon. "This was my mother's," he said. "It is the symbol of the Luna. In our oldest traditions, the Luna is not a consort, not just a mate. She is the pack's heart, the king's conscience, his equal. And then he did the one thing that shattered her final wall of defense. He dropped to one knee, the Alpha King, who bowed to no one, knelt on the cold stone before her. 'Kaelin,' she gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. 'Get up! The guards! Let them see,' he said, his voice a powerful, resonant vow that vibrated through the stone. He took her hand, the one with the faint silver scars. 'I will not command you, Lana. I will not own you. I will choose you every single day for the rest of my life. I vow to be your partner, not your master. Your shield, not your cage. I will protect you, listen to you, and honor you. My life for yours, Lana, always. If you will have me.' Tears were streaming down her face, but they were not tears of fear or of pain. They were tears of release. She sank to her knees in front of him, so they were eye to eye. 'I was a girl running from a monster, Kaelin,' she whispered, her hand cupping his hard jaw. 'I thought all love was a cage. I thought all strength was brutal.' She touched his face, his brow, his lips. You showed me that true strength is a king who will kneel. You showed me that love can be a sanctuary.' She leaned in, her forehead touching his. 'I choose you too, Kaelin. I choose your strength. I choose your vulnerability. I choose this pack, this life. I choose us. Every day.' He rose, pulling her up with him, his hands framing her face. He kissed her. It was not a kiss of possession. It was not a kiss of rage. It was not the desperate, fated kiss of a mate bond finally clicking into place. It was a kiss of choice. It was a promise. It was pine and rain, ozone and earth. It was a kiss that tasted, finally and completely, like home. A happy, rumbling yuff sound broke the moment. A nearly grown silver-grey wolf trotted onto the balcony, his tail wagging. Finn, no longer a cub, nudged their joined hands. Lana laughed, a real free laugh that echoed in the valley. She bent to scratch his ears, Kaelin's arm a solid, warm and chosen presence around her waist. She was not the girl who had run. She was the woman who had stayed. She was Lana, the pack's heart. And she was, in every way that mattered, the queen. And so, Lana's story, which began in blood and fear, ended in strength and in love. She proves that sometimes the most terrifying choice, to run into the forbidden woods, to help a creature you've been taught to fear, is the one that leads you to your true destiny. She was underestimated by everyone, including herself. But in the end, her quiet courage was the one thing that could heal a broken kingdom and a broken king. What did you think of Lana's story? Did you see that final twist with Ronan coming? The most powerful karma is the karma you deliver yourself. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If you loved Lana's journey and want more stories of drama, karma, and fated love, please show your support. Like this video, share it with someone who loves a good story, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel and hit that notifications bell. We have so many more stories to tell, and we can't wait to share them with you. Thanks for being here.